Malungil tutan marbekla, talguko mangget at tiyan program regidera DOTAUT. DOTAUT, Tekoi Ureor. Doing business in Palau. I want to welcome everyone who is with us today, both inside Palau and outside Palau. Welcome to our regular weekly show, DOTAUT, Doing Business in Palau. Tekoi Ureor. DOTAUT is a Palauan word that means to implement, to put into action. And so this is the show where we are very blessed to have entrepreneurs, to have people who are very gifted or talented with their professions, their expertise, and they have a passion not only to do business, but their business has a huge impact that better the lives of people, their pets, and their livelihoods all around the community. So I'm gonna just take it there and welcome Dr. Kristen Decina and also her assistant Mie Sequeira-Holm to the show. And before we start, I'm going to ask for your permission to allow me to read something that is some words of wisdom for all of us. So this is found in Proverbs 22:6. And it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Yang awasegata Podogora dosis a clear alleget, Sellegare, Mr. Laurel Boclo, and Diabol Oroi Regelungil Losis up. This is almost similar to your pets are like your children. Yes. So I'm very happy that that's a verse that was kind of given for today for us. Little words of wisdom. And now we are going to just focus on you and your assistant, Miel. And so I'm going to open the floor with you. Please introduce yourself to people who are with us today. And also this is going to be watched over and over from now on. So it's really good. People need to know you. So a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? And your educational background, your family, maybe all the way up to now that you're living in Palau. Namo maasra Palau. You're already a Palauan lady. And so yeah, people really need to know who you are, because I know you've been here and not many have had the opportunity to meet you.
Thank you so much, Irene. Thank you for having us on your show today, and it's a pleasure to be able to meet your audience and introduce ourselves and let everybody know what we're here to do and who we are. And my name is Dr. Kristen Decina is my married name, and I'm originally from New Jersey in the United States. I have a large Italian family at home, 10,000 miles away or so. So that's where I was born and raised. And I moved to Palau in 2020. And so since then, I've been here working towards opening Palau's actual first private veterinary hospital. And so, yes, I was born in the States. I went to veterinary school in the Caribbean, Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine. I then went to the University of Florida College of Veterinary Medicine, where I finished my surgical training and my clinical rotations. And so that was in 2016. And though I actually graduated as a doctor of veterinary medicine in 2016, I've been working with animals since 2003. So we're 20, actually, that's my first official job, but I've been volunteering with animals before that. So I'm over 20 years experience in the veterinary field.
And although you're a young lady, you've had
yes,
many years of experience.
Yes, that was always my passion since I was little. And so I've been working with animals since I was young. So it's been a long time, but definitely we love what we do here. I came to Palau and opened the first private veterinary hospital, as I mentioned. The name of the hospital is Arm Animal Care and Learning Center, and that's located in Medellin. And we're doing a lot of great work out of there, and we can chat more. I was going to let Mie take the floor and
also introduce herself.
Yeah.
And just before she does, I think the name of your animal clinic is so appropriate because you save animals. Osobalela Arm. Very good.
So for those who don't know me, my name is Mie Sequeira-Holm. I've always loved animals, and I actually, when I volunteered at the Palau Animal Welfare Society, I discovered this new passion of mine about animal care and like medicine. So that's where I actually met Dr. Kristen, because she volunteered as a vet there, and I really liked working with her. So I was really happy to hear when she talked about wanting to open up a animal hospital here in Palau. But since working with her, she's a really great boss and a really great teacher, and I've really learned a lot and continue to learn a lot.
Yeah. And I have visited the animal clinic Osobalela Arm. It's located across Rock Island Cafe, and you go just a little bit and you go inside to I think it's the building that's not too far from Ngara Cultural Center, but there's a big fence in between, and they have set it up beautifully. And so Miel gave me a tour when I visited. Dr. Decina was really busy with taking care of, a pet and a patient, with the patient owner waiting for her. So Miel gave me a tour of the clinic, and I really encourage everyone who is in the community, especially those who have children, to maybe call them and ask if they can arrange a tour and bring your young child just to go and have a little tour. It was inspiring to see how it's set up. And when you have children be exposed to the care of animals, they naturally learn to be caring and loving as well. So I kind of want to just trace back to when you first came to Palau. I think it's really important that people know we've had in Palau the Paws Society, but I have to say, I've never met anyone who is so passionate about what they do when it comes to the care of animals. And I know when you first came to Palau, you were the doctor who was taking very good care of those, I believe there were 8 canine dogs. And it is good that people need to know, how did you come to Palau, and how did you become the vet for the canines?
Sure. So I mentioned that I went to veterinary school in the Caribbean, and I had really enjoyed working on different islands after becoming a doctor and volunteering my services where they may not have services. So in the US, we have a lot of access to vet care. Veterinary care is very normal. There's a vet hospital on every other corner. But on other places of the world, I knew that there really weren't a lot of options for animals. And so it was always my passion to travel to different places, such as Central America, the Caribbean, to offer my veterinary services. So I was working in a veterinary hospital in the US, and a colleague knew that I liked to travel and offer services in different places in the world. And she mentioned that she was working on this opportunity in Palau. I'd never heard of Palau, so I definitely had to Google that. And she had initially offered me to maybe split the 1-year job to take care of the canines with her. She had just gotten married and she was trying to have a baby, and so it really wasn't something she was able to do. So eventually I was asked to be the lead veterinarian for the canine dogs coming to Palau. And I had actually known that we were coming to Palau for over a year. We were waiting and waiting to hear, and COVID hit, and Palau was totally closed down to visitors, and so that pushed everything back. But finally, in September of 2020, we were given the green light to bring the dogs here. And so we brought all 8 dogs on the planes with us in the middle of COVID. So if you can imagine what, traveling with 75-pound German Shepherd working dogs on a small airplane, some of which were very full, it was quite an experience. But it really was a joy to, be in the company of those dogs. They're really wonderful dogs, and to bring the dogs here. So I was working with the dogs. I was contracted to take care of them for 1 year, so September of 2020 to September of 21. Unfortunately, the care of the dogs was not prioritized after that, despite every effort by myself to make sure that all of the resources involved knew that the dogs continued to need care. So that has been a joy to have worked with those dogs, but probably one of the greatest challenges of my life, to see how things have developed for the dogs.
And especially when one of them recently passed away, it really broke my heart, because when you first came, I was very blessed to get to know you, because you came and stayed with me for a year in one of my units, and so I got to know the dogs too.
Yeah.
And then you had helped the trainers, since you're the vet, to train the dogs to get used to the Palauan officers. And so I remember coming to the graduation of the dogs, and it was so cute. It's kind of like training a child, but these dogs are highly intelligent dogs. And so it was really, really a learning experience. I think not just for me, but majority of Palauans. And we've never had this before.
So the dogs are definitely a resource, and they're a vital resource. They were actually bred in Europe. They're from Hungary. And so these dogs have been born and bred from a long line of working dogs. So they're not, our street dogs that we see. These dogs were bred for this purpose. And so they require specific care and things like that. And so my hope with opening Osabalela Arm in January of 2022, was that great. Now we have a permanent place in Palau for animals to get excellent, high quality, high standard care, including those dogs. So we have been a resource to the community since then.
And I've seen you in action taking care of animals, and especially these dogs. I remember these dogs very well when they first came, and you were helping these dogs to climatize to the new environment and the new climate, not only the new people who will be, with them every day, but you're really loving and caring and helping to train these dogs to get used to Palau.
Yeah.
So it is very sad for me when I saw in the newspaper that Keiko passed. And so I know that this is a show about doing business, but when it comes to the caring of these dogs, it is very important to many, many Palauans, because they are expensive dogs. Not only Palauans, but people in the US who pay taxes. We help our country to have this type of resource. They're very expensive resource. So when you have very expensive canine trained dogs that help the country to stay safe and free of drugs and crime, then we truly need to give them the top most excellent care that we can give. Is there any chance you can share a little bit about Keiko?
So unfortunately, I have not had the ability. I've not been allowed to work with her since 2021. I checked them one time. They allowed slightly after that, but I haven't had any inner workings with that since then. Unfortunately, when she passed, I actually wasn't even told. So yeah, so I'm definitely open to talking about that, but it's that there's a lot involved with that, and instead of going on the rumors and the innuendo and the things that I've heard, definitely some questions could be answered about her. I'll just say, the hardest part for me is knowing that I have been here and been a resource, and so nobody's really asked me, and nobody's really asked me to help with the decisions for the dogs. And so I know the dogs. I know each and every one of the dogs. I know them through and through. And
you know them more than anyone else.
I know them more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And the hardest part for me is to be here and to be accessible and not to have been consulted, and my recommendations not being followed, and my cries for help not being answered. And that's been devastating for me too. I think you mentioned before that we take good care of the animals and we love the animals, but Miel would agree. I think every animal that comes into our hospital and steps into our hospital becomes a part of our family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we know their parents, and we know them, and we know their temperaments, and we know what treats they like. And that's the same way that it was for me with the canines.
Yes.
And so not being a part in the decision making and not having a say in recommendations, and then ending up with this result.
Especially after you were the one taking excellent care of them for
Thank
a
you.
year, a whole
Yeah.
year. So I want to thank you for, first of all, opening yourself to adventure and coming to Palau, a place that you've never heard of before. And I also want to thank you for opening the very first animal clinic in the Republic of Palau. In this young country's history, your Osabelela Arm Animal Clinic and Learning Center is the very first. And so that goes on the record. And I am going to say that as we move forward and our children grow up and we have children and our grandchildren, your name will always be known for starting the very first animal clinic in Palau. And so I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
And now that you're married to a Palauan, you really are a Maasrabelau. So we can maybe ask you a question about how are you adjusting now to the Palauan community and culture?
So my husband is Palauan, and actually we met, I think I lured him to the veterinary hospital before it was open to change a light bulb for me, which turned into an 8-month-long renovation project. So my poor husband, thank you, McKinley, he actually, he's helping to run M&A general contractors, and that's what he does. But on the side, he loves animals. So that's kind of what allowed us to fall in love. And so we got married over the summer, and it's different. Things are different. I mean, we're from two very different backgrounds. So both of us kind of having to do that dance and figure out what works and what parts of, we want to bring, and then what parts we want to mingle, and, how we mix those cultures. There's some things that are very similar to, say, Italian American culture and Palauan culture, and that's, family and food, and
it's okay to be loud.
Yeah, oh, definitely okay to be loud. So those are very similar things, and I think we really had a beautiful blend of the cultures when my family visited for our wedding, and I think it was the most fun I've ever had at a wedding. So we really, we had a great time. My father's name may live in infamy from the wedding. But we just had a beautiful time, and my family loved it, and everybody really adopted them, and it was really wonderful to see. So it's it's a challenge, I think, coming from one very different culture and to another culture, and there's been so much history here of people coming in and out. And I think for the important thing that I want people to remember is, I wasn't hired to come here and leave. This is where my home is. This is where my family is. This is where I'm building roots. And so, this isn't a temporary thing for me. This is my permanent thing. This is my life. And so we did put every pride and joy into the hospital because that's something that means everything to me. So, everything is an adjustment, and yeah.
The journey's been, of course, it's not easy to start a new business.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very happy for you and Mac because you're both entrepreneurs. And I still remember all the renovations, getting the clinic totally ready to be a professional clinic. Before you hired Miel, it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work. So I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
And for hanging in there, sticking it through the tough times. Until now that you can have an assistant.
Yeah.
And so, Miel, share with us a little bit of your experience since you started helping at the clinic. When did you start? And we know you love working with Dr. Decina. Who wouldn't?
Yeah, well, I started I think I actually started officially in February of last year, 2022.
Okay.
And I was excited because I got to do more hands-on work with the animals and really learn from Dr. Kristen. And we've seen a lot of pretty interesting cases with dogs and cats. And I've learned a lot things that I've learned, I tell like my mom and dad who have their dogs. I live with my 2 cats, possibly now 3. And yeah, I've learned a lot. I've seen Dr. Kristen's great passion, and it's really inspiring. Also learning about how to run a business, all the challenges that come with it, like pricing your services and products, especially for a business like this with, caring for people's animals. It's hard to talk about money, but it's important to have those conversations with your clients and your customers. So
That's right.
I've learned a lot. So
A smart young lady.
Yeah, working with her has been a great blessing.
And I have to say, having Miel in the office has been a pleasure. When I was thinking about opening the office and the possibility of having Miel was really just relieving because she's so conscientious and she's very responsible. And, we're also friends. And so having somebody in the office like Miel is really a joy. And I think all of Palau knows her passion for different things. And so I've got, a young entrepreneur in my office. And I think we have a very open, honest dialogue, and Miel has seen the struggles that our infant business goes through. And so having her use that as an example for her own businesses, they, these are the mistakes I'm making, don't make those mistakes. And these are the joys that we get to share together. Miel helps with all of our patients, and then she gets to experience the ups. But it's not always ups. Sometimes it's down, and sometimes we have sad days, and sometimes there are tears, but that's what we do, and I don't think we would change that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really wonderful to know because as we started, we said, pets are like children. And so it is so important to see when we come into your clinic and we see you in action. Miel has this aura of being calm, and so I can only imagine that the dogs and the cats, when they come in with their pets, calm and peaceful and serene in the clinic. But not only that, you know, above all, it's about love and care. And you remember, Dr. Decina, when you first came to Palau, and I was sharing with you, and others were sharing with you how much of a problem we have with certain people not caring.
Yeah.
And so you'll see, you've witnessed us witnessing dogs being hit on the road, being injured, and people just not being aware and conscientious about these are living souls breathing, created, you know, like us, living souls, and yet, you know, they kind of let them get starved, or and so you saw that a lot. And I remember when you were waiting for the clinic to finish being renovated, there were times that you traveled to the schools. Would you share a little about that, you know?
I think visiting the schools and working with students is actually one of my favorite things and are one of our biggest passions. And that, so our hospital name for short is Osubelela Arm, but Animal Care and Learning Center at the end. And that's because we just want to share our knowledge. We want to share our love with animals, with the kids and the students. So we do, and we have visited several schools. I joined Customs, and we visited with a Customs dogs to do some demonstration for the kids, but also visiting at the Angel Center and bringing my own dog, who we use as, you know, kind of a service dog to work with the kids and let them see what animal care is and kindness to animals is, and how do we check the heart, and how do we look in their eyes. And it's really just so inspiring to see when their faces light up and they hear a heartbeat for the first time. So that is something that we will always continue to do. And working with the students, I think one of my other passions in this regard is I don't feel like I had a lot of role models when I was in high school and growing up towards going towards a career in medicine. And I really feel like you have to see it to be able to dream it. So you have to see, what is medicine about? What is science about? And not just the boring science that we do in class, but hands-on skills. And so practical skills, because that's where you're going to spark interest. So it's bringing some medical skills knowledge to the kids so they can see if they actually have a passion for that is an exciting thing that we're working towards.
So what are the ages of the youngest kids that you have presented? Like, have you presented in elementary schools? Is there an example of a school that you've gone to in Bubble Dub or?
So we did go, we have gone to school. So the youngest kids that we try and reach are 3 and 4 years old.
Oh, that's cute.
And then up to high school students, because there's always that opportunity to connect and inspire that love of animals, but also inspire the love of science and learning.
And medicine.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
So we have gone up north to Noralong and visited the students there, and then in Ureor at SDA, and I have a very big project hopefully coming up with the mid-Senti high school students.
High school age.
To really give them a hands-on fun learning opportunity so that the science that we all have to learn actually, you know, clicks. And they say, well, maybe I might want to do this.
Yes, and we need that.
Yeah, and how amazing would it be for us to have more Palauan doctors and Palauan nurses that you can connect with. You know, I think seeing a role model that looks like you, whether that be a woman or whether that be somebody from your own culture, is important. So we really want to inspire that love of medical science to the community.
I think you are already doing it, and you will continue to do it. I especially would love to have this program as you are sharing, that you can post it and share it everywhere, especially to young people. And this I noticed that in Palau, since you've arrived and since the clinic has been opened, the problem dogs that I see around, it's decreasing. That's good news. That means there's some care. There's care being given. So there was a time when you first came during COVID, especially when our economy was sort of dead. You really could see like animals suffering. And when animals suffer, that tells you that people are suffering. And when people are suffering, that tells you, okay, something is not right. There's something going on, socioeconomic impacts of COVID or whatever, but it's not just the science, it's the behavior of people. Do we care? If we show that we care for animals, we also care for people. So I think you've made a huge impact. You may not notice it because you're busy at the clinic, but I notice it driving around, and it's more and more people are knowing that they can take care of their animals. They know where they can bring them for a checkup, and hopefully training of how to care for animals would also stem out of your work, because I know that a lot of Palauans, they just use the dogs as guard dogs, and so they tie them up. I have a neighbor who ties up his animal, and I just sometimes when they're tied up 24 hours, I feel really sorry for these animals, because it's like, how would you like being tied up 24 hours, sitting in your own, it's not nice. It's very inhumane. And so hopefully, if people get to know that there's a place that care for their pets, that they also would learn to train their pets.
I think trying to make change and make positive change takes time. And so we are really thankful for the amount of owners that we're seeing on an increasing basis really care for their pets and do those basic things for pets that they need. I think that just understanding that everybody's doing their best and that together we can make those positive impacts. In the US, we all keep our dogs inside. They go on our couch, they go on our bed. That's not something that we do in Palau. And that's okay. Like, I do see the beauty of the dogs being able to roam. I see the beauty of them having their freedom, which is not something that happens really in the US. So just being sensitive to where we're at right now for animals, and then just trying to make those positive changes for animals slowly, I think is really important. And I absolutely see it happening. Miel, would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. And going back to your point about like training people how to take care of their animals, I think there is still like a need for education and awareness on how to be a good pet owner.
So we're so happy when people just adopt or get their first puppy, and they bring it into the clinic, and then that's why we have a private exam room, so we can sit with them and say, okay, this is your puppy, this is what you need to do to keep it healthy. We're gonna remind you when you need to do things for it, because who remembers? And it's so inspiring. I think we had one client come in with Miso, this beautiful little puppy, and he'd never had a dog. And he brings me his puppy, and the dog looks wonderful because it's coming in for its deworming, it's coming in for its vaccines. He's listening to all of our recommendations. So I don't expect everyday people to know what to do with their pet. That's why I went to school for 12 years. That's our job. So we are there as a resource. You can call us and say, hey, what does my puppy need? And that's why we're there. And I think if we close that communication and we just point fingers and we say, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, that's when we have a problem and people feel like they can't reach out to us. And that's what we don't want.
Right. And I like the way that you named your clinic Osublela Arm. animal clinic and learning center. Yes, you are a resource. You are a resource, and I think that's wonderful that we now have something like that in Palau.
It's really exciting.
Yes. And of course, because you're a vet, I'm sure there are those of us out there who probably have cats or, maybe have roosters, chickens, other animals as pets. I remember that you helped a little bit during COVID with the dolphins.
Yes.
And so it's a wonderful thing to know that they can come and ask for advice, your resource center, learning center for those kind of things. Yes, I'm really glad that you got to share with us today. Is there anything else about your passion and expertise, your profession, that you would like to share to not only young people, but just to people in the community so they become more aware?
A big question.
Mhm.
I would just say that, I do want people to know, because I think that this is a common misconception and also a misconception in the US. So, animal doctors are doctors, and we went to school for a very, very, very long time.
Mhm.
And so, for instance, I mentioned that I've been working in this field in one capacity or another for 22 years.
Wow.
And so, you know, we're specialized to help animals. That's what we do. And so, when your animal is sick, the best thing that you can do is first consult somebody who has that kind of experience. So I like to let people know, like, this is my field of expertise. I am a doctor. I prescribe medicine. I studied the whole body system. You know, just getting people on board that they can consult with us as their expert instead of asking a friend. I think that that's important. There are better practices and ways to do things, and that's what we're here for. So, anything for you?
Anything you want to add to that, Miel?
Um,
From your perspective, also not only working there, but as from the community and being a Palauan?
well, I think one of the main differences with our hospital, and you mentioned this, was the separate exam room. Because I think a lot of times people are sort of just used to leaving their pet, doctor does whatever to their pet, and then them not really knowing what's going on or what they need. So it's really great to have a room where you can sit down, talk to your pet's doctor thoroughly about what's going on, what needs to be done. Yeah, I think that was like one of the biggest things for me. Even like with my mom being there for the first time, I forget who we brought in, but after the visit was done, she was like, that was so nice being able to just sit with Kristen and like just talk and have a conversation. So I'm like in the know about what's going on with my dog or my cat.
Because you
They
can't.
get to ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And, you can't know and you can't advocate for your pet if you don't know what's going on. So,
Correct.
and something that's different for our clinic is we do charge for an exam. So the pet gets a proper exam, and then we talk to you about those findings. We talk to you about our recommendations. So that's something that's a little different, I think, for people here. They haven't necessarily experienced that, and that's why we do that, because we want to take a half an hour and work with you and your pet. We want to send you home with discharge instructions and say, this is everything you have to do, because who remembers that?
Yes.
So I'm bringing those practices that I've learned at all the hospitals and institutions that I've worked with in the US and around the world. I mixed everything that I really loved and brought it here. So you're getting that quality of care here in Palau, and I think that's really exciting.
We are honored and blessed to have you and to have you bring that quality of care. I also love the way that the clinic, you have a place where you shower the animals and bathe them. And I often, after I toured with Miel, I was thinking to myself as I left, I'm like, what if our own hospital had this kind of care? you really walk out of there, and I can tell that animal lovers, when they bring their pets out, they feel refreshed. Their pet feels rejuvenated and healthier.
Yeah.
And so that's really wonderful.
We really do take pride in our office is like our safe space, and it's our safe space for the animals. So we really take pride in keeping it clean and making it a positive, happy, bright place. And yeah, we do everything. We do grooming, and we try, even when the animals are sick, we keep them clean. Because if you've ever been sick and you haven't been changed or washed or this or that, you feel terrible.
Yes.
So when our animals are being hospitalized for different illnesses, we do make it a point to make sure that they're clean, and it's going that extra step to help them get better and help their family then in part.
Absolutely. I can't, not agree with you even more, because I've heard recently of patients or humans who have been found to be like not taken care of in that manner. So thank you for sharing that. And I really encourage everyone to like give them a call, go take a tour. It's a really happy place. And I would say that children can really learn a lot. If I had a little child, maybe someday I'll have a grandchild, I will bring them just to a tour, because children and the love for animals becomes part of your soul, that you're becoming an adult and you be a loving and caring adult. And that's really good, really wonderful and healthy for us. So okay, I think we're, coming to the end of our program this morning, but you're always welcome to come back again. Yeah, is there hope going into the future? Is there like a project, a plan that you would like to use this program to let people know to expect? Okay. You're welcome to do so.
Yeah. So first and foremost, we're Osabalala Arm, and we're located in Medellin. We are available by appointment, so we see animals by appointment for general vaccines, dewormer, healthy care, but also for emergencies. We also do house calls. Yesterday we went on a house call. Someone couldn't get their dog into the car, and we can help with that. In the future going forward, I would say that, of course we have a lot of plans. I'm hoping that things will expand for teaching these medical sciences here to the students. We're hoping that the hospital will expand and that we'll have more hands. And in fact, I do want to thank our other employee, Angie, who's not here today. And so she's recently come on board, and she's been a huge lifeline for the hospital as well as our assistant. So me, Miel, Angie, my poor husband in his off time.
Go, Matt.
Yeah. So, and then I also want to thank, we do have Palau Animal Welfare Society has been here, and we've been working with them. We're trying to have a very cohesive relationship. So they're doing low-cost spay and neuter. So at this point, we're actually referring the spays and neuters over to PAWS. They're doing a wonderful job with the low-cost spay and neuter for the community. It's a joy working with Dr. Pam, and just having more than one resource in Palau. We also have the animal shelter, and they're in charge of helping the streets stay clean and from the animals, and making sure animals are licensed. Dr. Sayaka recently left, but it was a pleasure working with her as well. So understand that Palau now has 3 resources. We all kind of do a different thing, and so just having that relationship, we all do a little bit different of something, but we're here for you. We're here to help your pet, and I'm hoping that just gets more commonplace here at Palau.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that you've done a lot of volunteering. So since you arrived in Palau, and I am grateful for that you started out building your collaborations, partnerships very well. And I'm just wondering, is there a time that you think we would be able to, how they do it in the States? They kind of make sure that their animals have like an ID. Is it a chip or so? I know my dog in the States had an ID. Like literally, I could go anywhere with her, and she had an ID. If she got lost, they can find her, and they can call me to go pick her up?
So there's a couple of methods. So you've got your tagging method, and actually the law in Ureor is that all dogs need to be tagged and licensed, and you can purchase your legal Ureor tag at the animal shelter. We are also offering dog tags for ID, the ones that go on your collar. So anyone from anywhere can come in and get your dog's name and phone number, and you can put that on your dog's collar. It's not their Ureor registration, but it is an ID. Additionally, our office actually does offer what is called microchipping.
Oh,
So we are doing that.
wonderful.
So we do microchip. It's a little device that's implanted under the skin and the neck, about the size of a grain of rice. And then if your dog is scanned
Yeah.
and it doesn't have a collar on, but it's scanned, we can actually match the number with the owner.
And find the mom and dad.
And find the mom and dad. But, you know, that's got to be an effort that's between all of us. So if the shelter needs to scan for the chip. We haven't chipped too many dogs, mostly for travel, but it is something that I have talked to Ureor State government about a few years ago, starting to offer microchipping and making that more commonplace so we can find the owners of the dogs when they're picked up.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of room for growth. And again, I'm here in Palau. I'm here as a resource. I offer my services as a resource. And so I'm hoping that, you know, we take advantage of that.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Kristen Decina, and your beautiful assistant, Mie. I am so grateful that you guys made time today to be with us, and let's make sure that we continue. So if you have like an event or a program that you want to do, please let us know. We want to be part of it. We want to promote the good work that you do in Palau. Not only with you as an entrepreneur, but you are doing so much that is impacting the community in a better way. And we all learn to care for our animals and to continue to be, you know, spreading the awareness and education. And also with the Learning Center and how you are helping students to be interested in science and the medical fields. That's kudos to you and to your assistants. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we're going to close our show today. And is there anything, Mie, you wanted to just say to the young people about caring for animals? Or
I just invite people to come to our clinic. Of course, if you could call or text in advance.
what's the phone number?
775
Okay.
7833.
So 7833. So you know the number to call. Don't just show up. Call first. There may be patients there that are sleeping. And so call first and they'll arrange a time and you can go and take a tour. And really, I encourage everyone, bring your kids. Bring your, you know, young kids all the way to high school. Just go and take a tour of the clinic. And thank you again, Dr. Decina.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Letting
Thanks
us
for
meet your
having
audience.
us.
Yes. So until next time on DOTAUT, Ureor, doing business in Palau. We wish all the best to Dr. Kristen Decina and Miel and the animal clinic, the very first in Palau called Osabalela Arm Animal Clinic and Learning Center. Until next time.